Let's have a look at today's latest Roy Morgan poll, because it's quite interesting. Let's just read some of the stuff from the latest Roy Morgan poll. The headline is National ACT NZ on 45 are on the verge of a majority ahead of Labour Greens on 40. That's actually almost an incorrect statement, as we'll see as we go through. Today's Roy Morgan New Zealand poll for June 2023 shows a potential right-leaning ACT New Zealand coalition have a clear lead on 45%, unchanged since May, ahead of the governing Labour Greens coalition on 40%, down 3 points. However, despite the clear lead, the right-leaning National ACT NZ potential partners are still 2 seats short of securing a majority of seats in the next parliament. We know we don't project in this show what it is in the future. But there are some interesting things. Right-leaning parties are attracting high support. The main opposition party, National, has seen a support decline in June, down 1.5% to only 30%. Really important sentence here. Really important sentence. And I tweeted the sentence out today. This is the lowest level of support for National since Christopher Luxon became leader on November 30th, 2021. National is at the lowest it's been since Luxon became leader. That means they are trending down. And who's trending up? ACT is trending up. Because ACT in June has gone up 1.5% to 15. Excuse me. It's a rush when you sneeze. So National's down 1.5, ACT is up 1.5. I think you can see the correlation there. Support for governing party, Labour Party, was down 0.5 to 30.5. So that actually means that Labour is the biggest party according to this poll at the moment. I'm sure that absolute evidence to most right wingers that National is the way forward. While support for their governing partners, the Green, has dropped 2.5% to 9.5. The lowest support for the party for nearly a year since August 2022. Although right-leaning ACT National coalition is in the box seat to form government in October, they're still falling short of having enough party to win a majority in the Senate, yada, 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 should that be the numbers on election day. Now, a couple of things about this to start off with. The Greens always poll during the year less than they perform at the election, always. And that's because 20-year-olds don't participate in these, and it's also because when the international votes come in, the Greens tend to pick up a seat. So actually, I don't think it's as bad for Labour and the Greens as they would have us believe. Now, one more point, Drew, before we get into it. The Maori Party has surged to a record high of 7% in June and still has the balance of power. The results for June suggest neither Labour Greens nor National ACT will have enough support to form a majority government later this year. The party in the box seat to determine the next government is the Maori Party, with support surging 2.5 points to a record high of 7%. Then there's the minor parties, which we're not going to talk about. So we don't like to project. I think it's pointless. But at the moment, if you're just looking at the numbers, Labour, Greens, Maori Party have the most votes and would get a majority. National ACT have the biggest bloc of 2, but would not have enough to get there. Shows it's razor thin, and shows that idea that I've heard once before, that if the left vote, the left will win this upcoming election, Chewie.
That's a good slogan. Yeah. No, this is what I've been saying as well. Like, this is going to be too close for anybody to sit on the sidelines and go, my vote doesn't matter. Your vote matters more than it's ever mattered because it is so close. I see that we've got comments from someone on Twitter just now saying
bless you.
We need to vote for a single main party. We've got to have a majority party. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. Like, the only way that we're going to get a majority government again is if we go to war with someone. We try and take back Tasmania or something like that. But yeah, like, we've had MMP now for like over 20 years. Like, the idea of coalition and compromise, and the fact that it's a more representative form of government, is that it's a good thing that a big party has to listen to what some of the smaller parties say. Now, I say that with one caveat: only on the left. Only on the left.
I also think
we don't want to hear from ACT.
I also think this is the perfect time to support your racist Uncle Bob and your racist granddad to vote for those Democracy and Freedom and Liz Gunn
Split the vote.
Leighton Baker. Honestly, if they pull up if all of those parties combined pull up 2% of the right vote, I think Labour wins. I think Labour, Greens, Māori Party win. If they don't, it'll be a lot closer. But I've said this for the past week, and I'll probably say it again today looking at those numbers, because the biggest coalition together is ACT and National, you'd still probably put them in the box seat today. This is not election day, even though the numbers today they're suggesting wouldn't work with those two, especially because Luxon, because he doesn't know how to do politics, has ruled out working with the Maori Party. But I think every single vote that can go off to Freedom and Outdoors, Democracy New Zealand, Leighton Baker, Freedom New Zealand, One New Zealand, the fuckwits for freedom,
Liz Gunn's Moonbat Party,
whatever, every single vote makes it one vote more likely that there'll be a left government after the next election. And all those people fighting for them support them. Like, honestly, I know it sounds weird, but I'm just like, I mean, I don't know what I think 5% is about 120,000 votes. We siphon off 50,000 votes over there. Could be enough. Support them. Convince your relatives to vote for those minor parties. How terrible ACT are and terrible National are, and get them to vote for them. And if you're someone who wants the left to succeed, it's probably a little tiny percentage that might actually help you get in there.
Yeah. Nick says you should have seen all the ACT billboards in and out of Nelson. They're clearly trying to poach National voters. He's counted 9 on the way to Murchison.
Wow.
Again, this sort of sinks back into what I was saying yesterday. These guys have money. They have rich donors that are happy to put in dollars, because what they have in dollars, they lack in numbers. But if they can muddy the water and get people to vote against their own self-interest, then that's what sort of screws it for the rest of us. It really skews things their way.
I want to share one other thing from Roy Morgan as well, and that is business confidence. New Zealand's government confidence rating was up 4 points to 84. And remember, at the moment, Luxon and National's going around comparing New Zealand to the rest of the world. It's funny how 2 months ago they wouldn't do that, when New Zealand was leading the world in all these areas. But now that we're like half of a percent behind some other countries in recession and stuff, like there was a poll they put out the other day, not a poll, research, they talked about, I think GDP in New Zealand, we were like negative 0.2, and it compared it to 4 other countries with this big spread. But if you look at the numbers up the side, it was less than a 1% difference between where we were and the countries they compared it to. But a graph can look interesting. Here's something else. Seeing we're going to compare this to other countries, that's a National Party thing they're doing at the moment. The Roy Morgan government confidence rating was up 4 to 84 in June, the highest since March. A majority of 54%, down 5 of electors said New Zealand was heading in the wrong direction, compared to 38%, up 2.5, who said New Zealand was heading in the right direction. The latest ANZ Roy Morgan consumer confidence rating for New Zealand was up 6.3 to 85.5, and clearly above the latest consumer confidence figures for Australia of 74.9. So I'm just saying, if National's going to start putting out, how terrible Labour's doing compared to the rest of the world, it's only fair that you point out when it's actually doing well compared to the rest of the world. So the consumer confidence figures for New Zealand are 10% better than Australia. So I guess that makes us the lucky country, Chewie.